Heartland Podcast. My name's Justin. I am your host, also joined with your favorite co-hosts and creative directors, Simon and Shannon. How are we feeling today?
Feeling great.
Feeling good. Another healthy day with Heartland. How are you doing, folks?
There we go.
We're doing wonderful. So, got a great topic today. We're going to be talking about that mythical creature, Beefalo. But before we get into that, let's do the announcements.
All right, couple quick announcements for you folks. Won't keep you too long, but if you are ready to reorder, we have an amazing reorder special for you this month. In June, it's Nick's Ice Cream, which is a Swedish-style light ice cream. Super delicious, tons of great flavors for everyone to enjoy, so we'll include 4 pints of that. Your choice, absolutely free, along with your reorder. Speaking of reorders, if you are getting your reorder delivered, be sure to take a photo of your delivery or your freezer, post it on your Facebook page and tag at Heartland Connect. You'll be sure to be entered into our $500 raffle giveaway, which we choose at the end of every month. So definitely check that out in the foodie group. And we look forward to seeing those posts. And with that, guys, let's not hesitate any longer. Let's get into the podcast.
All right. So Beefalo. I guess before we get into what is Beefalo and all that, Justin, do you want to explain why Heartland even would like to even carry Beefalo? Like, how does it align with the brand?
Well, I guess we want to carry everything, right? Like, we've got goat cubes, frog legs, alligator, pheasants, quails. So we want to have everything. But this specifically is a red meat health item. So it's an alternative to traditional beef in terms of the lower cholesterol levels. So from a health perspective, it was something we wanted to offer for those who are supposed to eat a little less red meat because of cholesterol issues. So that's kind of the main motivator behind going down this Beefalo rabbit hole, catalos, and all these other hybrid animals.
Right. So I guess the biggest opportunity there was the health perspective behind it. That if you're eating, red meat, to kind of get a more kind of like lean, kind of same kind of would you say it's the same flavor as beef?
No, I mean, it's close.
Yeah.
Close.
It's kind of the middle ground between beef and bison, right? Because you got the 3/8 bison genetics, 5/8 cattle. So it's not as gamey as bison, but it's not as flavorful as beef. So kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I just had a Beefalo ribeye the other day, and I mean, it's for me, it's phenomenal. Like, I love ribeyes in general, but to have that transition of beef to Beefalo, it is. I mean, it's amazing, and I think it's great, especially if it is that lower cholesterol. And I think the USDA is the one that's putting out those stats as far as like the vitamins and the cholesterol and all those kind of things as well.
Right.
But I mean, I enjoy red meat in terms of just beef, and I enjoy the red meat in terms of Beefalo as well.
Well, it's nice, like you both mentioned, to have like another option, right? Like, you have the traditional cuts, and of course, if you're doing beef, you're either doing like a burger, or maybe you're doing a steak, but it's nice to have an option that's not only healthier, but that has a slightly different flavor. And really, if you're a beef fan, it's not going to be too far off from that. It's you're gonna feel real comfortable with it, and it's gonna taste delicious. And if beef maybe isn't your thing, maybe this is something that you could try to kind of ease you into it, because it is going to be a little bit leaner, but you're still going to get that beefy flavor. So I think it's really a great middle ground for everyone, whether health is the driving force behind what you're choosing, or whether you'd like to try something new, right? Or whether you just want to have some variety.
Yeah.
So
you bring up a good point, because there's a lot of people that won't necessarily try just bison, right? Because they think that the flavor is too gamey. Although I enjoy it. But there's people out there
some people enjoy it, and for some people it might be
too gamey or
a lot to take on. So I mean, I think that's why this is like a good middle ground, because you're getting a little bit of the health benefits and some of the flavor from that bison, but also you're a little bit close to home with those beef flavors as well. So
Justin, do you think you really taste the bison in the Beefalo?
Sort of. Yeah, I think Beefalo is just
I think you do a little.
It's its own thing,
Yeah.
But one thing we have to be clear about, because I get this question a lot, people think that Beefalo is actually like we're taking pieces of each animal and combining it, like grinding it together.
No.
And they think it's like a blend mix, but this is actually a real hybrid animal.
Right.
It looks like, essentially a cow, but just huge, jacked, like really strong. It looks like, like it has that body of like a bison, because they're pretty strong, and they're like the ultimate herbivore, right? Bison are. Mm-hmm. And then you have the the docility of the cows,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, to be able to kind of raise these kind of animals so that you're getting, the health properties of bison along with, the flavor and that, again, the being able to raise the cows with that, in terms of the temperament. I think it was a funny quote. Here, let me try to find it really quick. It's really cute because, I mean, they're like, you take out the mean. Oh, that's what it is. You take out the meanness, but you keep the leanness.
Okay.
You like that, right?
There
Where's
you
my
go.
little rim shot? Sorry, that was really late. But yeah, you take out the meanness, but keep the leanness of the bison with being able to kind of, have that cross between the bison and the cattle. So, yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. I think it's some really good stuff. And I think it's going to take on a new sort of meaning, especially like we like to call it the miracle protein, especially for people that are working out because, you want those kind of more lean kind of meats.
Yeah.
And I think that like right now, I don't think a lot of people even know that it's out there.
Yeah, that's what I think is so cool is that it offers some variety into, your diet and planning your meals. And it's just that extra added benefit. I think Justin mentioned a bunch of the unique cuts and products that we carry that you can't always find everywhere else. So that's something that, you can add into your menu or your plan and kind of mix things up as well.
Yeah.
And it's all the same cuts as beef.
Right.
So
Yeah, you got the ground. You can do burgers. You got the steaks. So you got ribeye, New York strip, right?
Yep.
And you got like flank steak, skirt steak.
got the stew tenders, the fajita strips.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. They have a list of the competitive beefalo traits that are coming basically from this. So they've got longer reproductive lifespans. So that, I mean, for the people that are farming them, and there's not a lot of them, but Mark and Linda Merrill, right? Up in
Ellensburg, Washington.
Yep. That's essentially where we're
They've been doing it since 1984.
1984.
It's almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Jen.
We're good at math on this podcast.
yeah. But yeah, small birth size for ease of calving.
Okay.
Right. But yet,
so good for the animals.
Right. It's good for the animals. It a lot less like downtime that the animal's going to have to take as they're recovering.
Right.
But yet they have a rapid rate. I'm saying it fast as well. Rapid rate of gain with forage, roughage, and feeding without grains or hormones.
That's awesome.
Right. So they have that rapid growth rate that you see in like bison, but there's still that, you know what I mean? Again, you get the docility of the cows, the extreme climate adaptability. So
that's great too.
Right.
Depending on where they're being raised,
Absolutely.
They can adapt to the environment, whether it's drier climate or wetter climate, colder climate. Because cows are pretty hardy.
Yeah.
They can be out, in the wintertime. So it's like some people don't know that.
But some do better than others in the different
depending on the breed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also think that bison, I mean, as they're roaming the earth.
Right.
I mean, roaming the U.S. essentially.
Traditional.
Right.
Yeah, traditionally.
So essentially they're going to be dealing with all the different climates because you're grazing, you know what I mean, a pretty large area. So you're going to be going through the cold, you're going to be going through the heat, you're going to be going through all those things. So I think
you're
those
saying
are
as they migrated.
Migrated, yes.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Different seasons.
Yep.
That's why we had some of the most incredible soil build up from all those herds of bison that were just dumping rumen all over the country.
Yep.
Yeah. And the different, you think about like all the different like breeds and variations and they
of
were
bison?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying like, different genetic variations.
Oh, yeah,
and then
yeah,
they're
yeah.
traveling all over and migrating and they're in different places at different seasons, eating different forage at different times. And then we've talked about like obviously the benefits of like their manure and their urine, but also like their saliva and things like that. So that's essentially what, regenerative farming is
That was like
is mimicking.
the great pasture rotation.
Yeah, exactly. Like in its fullest,
And they were just doing what they were meant to be doing, right?
It's natural. What they were genetically meant to do.
Yep.
Yep.
But they got they're very good maternally. They got great milking and high conception rates.
Wow, that seems like all the things you would want.
Right.
In like a herd, right?
Yep. Get this, they're disease resistant. So,
Okay.
you know what I mean? If you got like any kind of the bovine bugs that are essentially there while you are farming them, they are more resistant to those bugs. And then a great carcass structure, so the quality and the healthy meat. So then you're getting those same steaks that you're getting from, the Black Angus and all the other different breeds of cows, but from a beefalo.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Right. And then, as we said, I guess it's 37.5% American bison. So it's basically 3/8 and 5/8 domestic cattle, but it has to be labeled as 37.5% American bison to be able to be considered beefalo.
Yes, and then 5/8 domestic cattle, usually Black Angus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It makes you wonder how much conventional beef's out there with some bison genetics in it.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a
because they're
good
not
point.
thoroughbreeding. So
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point, was there some genetics in there? Why not?
yeah.
Actually, it'd be. I mean, if you think about it, it'd be smart if they did get like a like a steer from a beefalo and then incorporate that into their. I mean, I don't know.
A
if it makes it
bison,
any-
you mean?
No, from a beefalo. Like you get a beefalo steer and
Oh,
you have
beefalo steer, and then breed that with cattle.
or just have it run with the herd. You know what I mean?
Why not?
Improves the genetics, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's doing all the things that you said in terms of like less risk for like birth and then growing the herd, that would make sense.
Yeah, high conception rate, all those kind of things. So
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
yep. But I guess their beefalo is a healthier beef for you in your world, is what they're calling it. Is what they're the marketing behind it is now, and not many people are really marketing it because not many people really have it.
Also, too, there was like a chart that was talking about beefalo had more protein than regular beef. It had almost 3 times the amount of calcium beefalo did.
Mm-hmm.
It had more iron
Mm-hmm.
than traditional beef, more potassium, more niacin, and then less total fat. So regular beef, I don't know, I guess they're doing this in grams, 17.37 grams, and beefalo, same serving, 6.3 grams. So that's like a third. That's pretty significant.
Why I assume, because stats, statistics,
Right.
but that leads my mind to believe because most of 45% of the mineral, vitamin, all that content comes from the forage and the quality of the organic matter that fed the forage that they're on. So
Right.
if they're comparing that to the stats of beef that comes from feedlots, maybe that's what it is.
Right.
Not
That's
necessarily the breed difference. Maybe if you raise a cattle on pasture, it'll have similar to beefalo because I don't know of any beefalo coming from a feedlot.
Right.
So
Right.
Oh, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
I didn't think of it like that.
And I think that with the actual the traits of the bison, I think maybe even they can get more nutrients from the grass than maybe they're just more nutrient. They can absorb the nutrients better than cattle essentially.
Right. Wow.
Because they're again like the greatest herbivores that are out there. Bison essentially, I'm saying.
Like their bodies are just more efficient at processing it.
Right.
That could be true too.
But I think that's a great point.
that would make
That he
sense.
brings up. Is
Yeah.
that maybe they're comparing it to feedlot farms where it's like, yeah, of course they're getting grain, they're not even eating grass,
Right.
Yeah.
So it could definitely be. It's probably could even be more than that. Maybe what I mean?
Right. But I mean, even if it just supplied you that slight edge, right, and that's what you needed. I mean, more the reason to try it then, or to try it out and see if it's something that you would enjoy. Because if it was slightly less, fat, cholesterol, and you're getting more potassium, more iron, more the things that you want, calcium, why not? Especially if it's tastes similar and you enjoy it. I can't, me personally, I can't really like taste the difference when I taste it. And I've had both bison and beef, and I just enjoy of course our ground beef and our chuck brisket short rib blend because I just enjoy the fat and the flavor. But I think the beefalo has its own unique fat and flavor to it, but just something different.
I would think because you're more of a person that enjoys more lean kind of cuts.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That you would
fair.
prefer even, something like a beefalo because I love the fat. Like in the ribeyes, I mean the whole
Yeah,
entire
the whole
every
fat
piece
cap.
of it. She's like, "What are you doing? That's bristle." I'm like, "I love it. It tastes so good to me." So I'm like, for me the beefalo, it was a little bit more lean, but I didn't miss any of the fat and the flavor that was
Right.
there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
but that's just my
It kind of
personal
has its own, unique thing to it. It's not missing or adding anything. It has its own unique flavor profile and texture and taste.
Yeah, and on this actual topic, judged by the overall flavor and texture, it's received the best steak award multiple years running at the American Royal Steak Competition. So
Yeah, they said I was reading that too. They said the same exact thing.
yeah, is
That's
that I mean,
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, they provided 2 frozen ribeye steaks. I guess the Kansas State University was the one who was doing the contest, and they made sure that they had the cooking requirements were the same for each entry. Everything was judged and closely monitored. And then they had 8 judges from the United States and Canada, and they did all the taste tests, and the entries were all scored according to 10 criteria, including juiciness, tenderness, and lasting flavor. And then they were totally surprised, the Merrill family, when they learned that they had won it all. So out of 31 steak entries under the grass-fed category, and they won grand champion under all the grain-fed entries as well. So they won. They won.
What? They beat the grain
of all. Yeah.
That's
So I mean, that's, and like how you were talking about the way things are, raised. If all of those steaks were, grass-fed and everything, I just think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, what an accomplishment,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
It's hard to beat a steak. It's like, I would hate to be those judges having to taste them, because how can you, judge between the best of the best?
Like you're saying, flavor, texture, you can definitely tell.
I feel like it's really going to be different for each judge, right? Like what's important to you.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, texture is up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably more than flavor.
Yeah.
Texture is huge.
Absolutely. I think so too.
And for some people too, juiciness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, juiciness is probably goes right along with the flavor, but also, I mean, like when you think of texture, if you get some of these like not Black Angus, like a different sort of breed of cattle, and you're just sitting there and you're chewing on it, and you're whereas like with the Black Angus beef, you're cutting right through it. It's like super smooth. It's